Elena stared at the phone in her hand, David's cold voice still echoing in her ears. "I can explain," she said, but the line was already dead. Rebecca grabbed Elena's arm. "We have to get out of here. If David knows you're here." "No." Elena's voice was stronger than she felt. "I'm not running anymore. We're going to face this." "Elena, you don't understand. David isn't the man you think he is." "What do you mean?" Rebecca's hands were shaking. "When I said yes to his proposal, something in him changed. He became possessive, controlling. He made me promise not to tell Sophie about you until after the divorce was final." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "What else did he say?" "He said that once he was free from you, we could start fresh. That no one from his old life could ever interfere with our family." "Rebecca, that sounds like..." A car door slammed outside. Both women froze. Through the window, Elena saw David's black sedan in the driveway. Her husband was walking up the front path, his face like stone. "He's here," Elena whispered. Rebecca looked terrified. "Sophie gets home from school in an hour. She can't see this. She can't see her father like this." David's key turned in the front door. Elena's heart stopped. "He has a key? He lives here 2 days a week," Rebecca whispered. "This is his home too." David walked into the living room like he owned it, which Elena realized he probably did. "Hello, ladies." His voice was calm, but his eyes were dangerous. "Having a nice chat?" Elena stood up slowly. This was her husband. The man she'd shared breakfast with that morning. The man who'd kissed her goodbye and told her he loved her. But looking at him now, she realized she'd never really known him at all. "David." Elena's voice was steady. "We need to talk." "Oh, I think we're past talking, don't you?" David sat down in what was clearly his chair. There were his reading glasses on the side table. His coffee mug from that morning. This wasn't just Rebecca's house. This was David's second home. His real home. 8 years, Elena said. "You've been lying to me for 8 years." David shrugged. "I've been living my life, Elena. Something you might want to try." The casual cruelty of his words took Elena's breath away. "Living your life?" "While I was going through fertility treatments. While I was blaming myself for not being able to give you children." "You couldn't give me children," David said matter-of-factly. "Rebecca could. Sophie is proof of that." Elena felt like she'd been slapped. "You knew I wanted children more than anything in the world. And I gave you hope, didn't I? Isn't that what you wanted? Someone to hold your hand through all those appointments? Someone to tell you it would be okay." Elena stared at this stranger, wearing her husband's face. "You're a monster," she whispered. David laughed. "I'm practical. You needed comfort. Rebecca needed a father for her child. I provided both." "What about Jessica in Portland?" Elena pulled out her phone. "What about Maria in Phoenix? What about the woman in Miami?" For the first time, David's composure cracked. Rebecca gasped. "There are others?" "Shut up, Rebecca." David's voice was sharp. "Elena, you shouldn't have gone through my phone." "Your second phone," Elena corrected. "The one you used to manage your other families." David stood up slowly, and Elena saw something in his eyes that made her step backward. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," he said quietly. "Then tell me." Elena's voice was shaking but determined. "Tell me who you really are." David walked to the mantel and picked up the photo of him with Sophie. "I'm a man who takes care of his responsibilities. All of them. Is that what we are to you?" "Responsibilities. Elena, you were broken when I met you. Desperate for love, desperate for security. I gave you both." The words hit Elena like physical blows. "I wasn't broken. You were damaged goods. Your own father walked out when you were 12. You had abandonment issues, trust issues. You needed someone to save you." Elena felt tears streaming down her face. Because part of what he was saying was true. She had been vulnerable when they met. She had been looking for someone to love her completely. "And Rebecca?" Elena looked at the other woman, who was sitting in stunned silence. Rebecca needed a father for her child. A provider. "I became that." "What about the others?" David's smile was cold. Everyone needs something, Elena. I'm good at figuring out what that is. Elena realized she was looking at a predator. A man who identified vulnerable women and gave them exactly what they needed to keep them trapped. How many of us are there? She asked. Does it matter? It matters to Sophie. Elena's voice broke. It matters to your daughter who thinks you're going to marry her mother and be a real family. David's expression softened when Elena mentioned Sophie. Sophie is different. Sophie is mine. They're all yours. Elena screamed. We're all your victims. You're not victims, David said calmly. Your choices I made. And now I'm making a different choice. He turned to Rebecca. The divorce papers will be filed next week. After that, we can be the family Sophie deserves. Elena felt her world tilt. Just like that? 12 years of marriage, and you're just walking away. Elena, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think I'd keep this up forever? Dividing my time between all of you. I thought you loved me. David's laugh was hollow. I loved what you gave me. Stability. A home base. Someone who never asked too many questions. Elena realized that every loving word, every tender moment, every promise he'd made had been carefully calculated. What about Jessica? And Maria? Are you walking away from them too? David was quiet for a moment. They serve different purposes. Elena felt sick. What purposes? Elena, you're asking questions you don't want answers to. Rebecca suddenly stood up. I can't do this. Sophie will be home soon, and I can't let her see this. Rebecca's right, David said. Elena, you need to leave. No. Elena's voice was stronger now. I'm not leaving until Sophie gets home. What? Both David and Rebecca stared at her. Your daughter deserves to know the truth about her father. About what kind of man he really is. David's face went dark. You're not telling Sophie anything. She's going to find out eventually. Better she learns now, when she's young, than when she's older and even more damaged by your lies. Elena, please, Rebecca begged. She's just a little girl who's been living in a fantasy her father created. A fantasy where daddy is a hero who just can't live with them because of work. Elena looked at David. But that's not true, is it? You can't live with them because you have other families, other responsibilities, other women you're manipulating. I'm not manipulating anyone. Then what do you call this? Elena gestured around the room. You've built a life with Rebecca while staying married to me. You've let her believe you're going to choose her while keeping me in the dark about Sophie's existence. David took a step toward Elena. You need to leave. Now. Or what? The question hung in the air between them. Elena realized she'd never been afraid of her husband before. But looking at him now, she saw something cold and calculating that made her skin crawl. David, Rebecca's voice was small. Maybe Elena's right. Maybe Sophie should know. Rebecca, shut up. David's voice cut through the air like a blade. Elena saw Rebecca flinch and realized this wasn't the first time David had spoken to her that way. How does he treat you when I'm not here? Elena asked Rebecca directly. Elena, don't. Does he control your money? Tell you what to wear? Who you can talk to? Stop it. But Elena could see the truth in Rebecca's eyes. He does, doesn't he? He's been controlling you for 8 years, just like he's been lying to me. I take care of my family, David said coldly. By isolating them? By making them dependent on you. By providing for them. By being there when they need me. When it's convenient for you, Elena corrected. When it fits into your schedule of managing multiple families. A school bus rumbled past the window. Sophie's bus, Rebecca whispered. Elena looked at David. Are you going to tell her, or am I? You're not telling her anything, because you're leaving. I'm not going anywhere. David moved toward Elena, but she held her ground. Touch me, and I'll scream loud enough for Sophie to hear when she walks through that door. David stopped. What's it going to be, David? Are you going to tell your daughter the truth, or are you going to let her figure it out when she sees you threatening the woman you're married to? Footsteps on the front porch. A key in the lock. Mommy? I'm home. Elena's heart broke at the sound of that innocent voice. Sophie had no idea her world was about to shatter. "We're in the living room, sweetheart," Rebecca called, her voice artificially bright. A little girl with blonde curls bounced into the room, her backpack sliding off her shoulders. "Daddy!" Sophie launched herself at David, who caught her and held her tight. Elena watched this man transform. The coldness disappeared. The calculation vanished. For just a moment, David looked like the loving father Sophie believed him to be. "How was school, princess?" "Good. I got an A on my spelling test." "Want to see?" Sophie was digging through her backpack when she noticed Elena standing by the window. "Who's that?" Sophie asked, looking between the adults. The room went silent. Elena looked at this beautiful little girl who had her husband's eyes and her husband's smile. This child who had no idea she was standing in the middle of a lie that was about to destroy everything she believed about her family. "Sophie, this is Elena," Rebecca said carefully. "Hi, Elena." Sophie waved cheerfully. "Are you Mommy's friend?" Elena looked at David, who was watching her with dangerous eyes. "Sophie," Elena said gently, "I'm your daddy's wife." The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Sophie looked confused. "But Daddy's going to marry Mommy." "No, sweetheart," Elena said, her heart breaking. "Daddy is already married. To me." Sophie looked at David, her little face scrunched in confusion. "Daddy? Is that true?" Elena watched David's face as he looked at his daughter. She saw the moment he made his choice. "Sophie," David said quietly, "sometimes grown-ups have complicated situations." "What does that mean?" David knelt down to Sophie's level. "It means that yes, I'm married to Elena. But I love you and Mommy more than anything in the world." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "But you said you were going to live with us all the time soon." "I am, baby. I'm getting divorced, and then we can be a real family." Elena felt her heart shatter as she watched this little girl process information no child should have to handle. "So Elena is like your practice wife?" Sophie asked innocently. The question would have been funny if it wasn't so heartbreaking. David actually smiled. "Something like that, princess." Elena realized David was still manipulating the situation, still making himself the hero and Elena the obstacle to Sophie's happiness. "Sophie," Elena said gently, "there's something else you should know." David stood up quickly. "Elena, don't. You have other brothers and sisters. Other families that your daddy visits." Sophie's face went completely blank. "What?" Rebecca whispered. Elena pulled out her phone and showed Sophie a photo she'd found. "This is Jessica and Oliver in Portland. Oliver is 4 years old, and your daddy is his daddy too." Sophie stared at the photo, her little mind trying to process what she was seeing. "I have a brother and a sister in Phoenix, and probably more we don't know about." Sophie looked at David with big, confused eyes. "Daddy? Is that true?" Elena watched her husband's face as he realized his carefully constructed world was crumbling. And that's when David made a choice that changed everything. "Sophie, go to your room." "But Daddy..." "Now." Sophie had never heard her father use that tone. She looked scared as she backed toward the stairs. "Daddy, are you mad at me?" "No, princess. Just go upstairs and play. The grown-ups need to talk." Sophie hesitated, looking between the 3 adults who all seemed like strangers suddenly. "Daddy, you're scaring me." Elena's heart broke as she watched this little girl realize that something fundamental had shifted in her world. After Sophie went upstairs, David turned to Elena with pure rage in his eyes. "You have no idea what you've just done." "I told the truth." "You destroyed a child's sense of security. You destroyed it the moment you decided to live multiple lives." David took a step toward Elena. "You need to leave. Now. Before I do something we'll all regret." Elena looked at this man who'd shared her bed for 12 years. This stranger who'd been living a lie so complex she was still discovering its depths. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "Not until we figure out how to fix this mess you've created." David's smile was cold and dangerous. Elena, you really don't want to push me on this. And that's when Elena realized the most terrifying truth of all. She had no idea what her husband was capable of. Upstairs, Sophie started crying. Not the normal crying of a disappointed child, but the deep, heartbroken sobs of someone whose world had just shattered. Rebecca started toward the stairs, but David grabbed her arm. Let me handle this. David, she's falling apart up there. I said I'll handle it. Elena watched the exchange and realized David wasn't just controlling. He was possessive of Sophie in a way that seemed almost dangerous. Let Rebecca go to her daughter, Elena said. David's grip on Rebecca's arm tightened. Sophie is my daughter too. Then act like her father instead of her owner. David's eyes flashed with something Elena had never seen before. Pure violence. And Elena realized that her husband wasn't just a liar and a manipulator. He was something much, much worse.